Hello students, welcome to the first video of Standard 9 English language. Today I am going to make you understand conditional sentences. So without wasting much time, let's start. Conditional sentences are about those events or situations which might occur in future or might have occurred in the past. These events are highly probable, means uncertain. Now, conditional sentences are of three types, but the basic structure of all the three types are the same. That is, if clause plus main clause means there will be two clauses, one will be if clause and the other will be main clause, which is also known as result clause. So, let's understand it one by one. We'll start with type 1. In type 1, this type deals with such events which are possible. Now, why it is possible? Because it is written in present tense. If clause is written in present tense. The most commonly used form of type 1 is in if clause we use simple present and in main clause we use simple future. Now there are other forms also. In if clause you can also use present continuous, present perfect continuous. That I will explain you later on. Now you understand this particular form which is commonly used, like most of the time in type 1 when we are talking about such events which are possible, we generally use simple present tense, right? So that you understand now. If clause we use simple present and main clause, that is result clause, we use simple future. Now I'll help you with the example. If I get a scholarship, here you see, we are talking about present tense because the word get is there and get means simple present. So if I get a scholarship, I will complete my PhD. Now, here the context is the person is financially backward and cannot pursue research courses. Thus, the person says that if he gets a scholarship, right, he will complete his PhD, otherwise, he cannot. Means if I get a scholarship, I will complete my PhD, otherwise, I won't be able to complete. Now let's understand it with more example. One more example I'm giving you, which is not shown on the screen, but you just listen to it. If it rains, I will stay back. Here the person has to go to his own house, suppose, and he keeps a condition that if it rains, he will stay back. Otherwise, he will have to go. But students, as I've told you, know that in type 1 we use not only present tense but also present continuous, present perfect continuous can also be used. So let's just see what happens there. Now simple present tense, I have already explained you that if it rains he will stay with us. Now present continuous, you see, if it is raining he will stay with us. Now here the raining is going on, the rain is going on, right? The process of raining is going on, that is called continuous tense. In the simple present tense, the rain has not started. Here the condition is, in the first one there is a condition, if it rains, right? But here in continuous tense it is raining, right? So the person is saying that if it is raining he will obviously stay with us. In present perfect tense, you understand present perfect tense when we use for completed action, right? I have told you in the when I was teaching you tenses. So present perfect tense is used for completed actions. So here the sentence is, if she has already left, she will catch the train. Means if she has really left her home, her apartment, right, her locality, then obviously she is going to catch the train. Now, present perfect continuous, if he has been traveling all night, he will be sleepy. Now, you remember here that present perfect continuous tense is used when we are talking about an action which started in the past and still going on. And one more thing you need to remember here, that in present perfect continuous, generally we talk about time reference, okay? So if he has been traveling all night, now this is the condition, that if he has been traveling all night, really he has been traveling, so obviously he will be sleepy. This is the highest possibility that he will be sleepy. Now, model auxiliary verbs can also be used in if clause. For example, here can is used. Can is a model auxiliary verb and it is used to show ability. Okay. So, if I can save enough money, I will buy a new computer. Now, here I have written new computer because for me it's important now. I have not written mobile, right? So, if I can save enough money, I will buy a new computer. So their model auxiliary verb is used in if clause. But you can see, you can notice in all the sentences, main clause is the same. Means in main clause, simple future tense is only used. But there is one exception in which main clause is also written in present tense. And what is that exceptional case? When we talk about universal truth, when we talk about general truth, when we talk about habitual actions, right? So in such conditions, main clause can also be in present tense. That you need to remember. For example, if I give you here one example, so suppose if I'm telling you that if you heat ice, it turns to water. Now here, heating of ice and turning to water, it's a general truth, it happens, right? You cannot change it. If you heat ice, it turns to water. So instead of saying that if you heat ice it will turn to water, we will say if you heat ice it turns to water. So you can see that in main clause we haven't used simple future, we have used only present tense. One more example I'm giving you: if you overeat, you become fat. Now this is also something very general. It's a general truth that obviously if you overeat, if you eat extra, if you eat more and more, right, so you become fat. So here you can see that in main clause, instead of writing you become fat, what we have used, you will become fat, what we have used, you become fat. So this is one exceptional case when we are talking about universal truth, when we are talking about general truth, when we are talking about habitual action. In main clause also present tense is used. Now we'll start with type 2. Now type 2 is used when we are talking about such some something which is impossible. Often means most of the time it is impossible, and we are talking about an imaginary situation, and that's the situation's consequences means the result can be seen now. So generally in type 2 we use past tense. You remember we use past tense here, but the reference of past tense is given, but the meaning of past tense will not come. If you read out the sentence of the type 2, the meaning of past tense will not be coming. For example, if I got a scholarship, I would complete my PhD. Here you see the structure. The structure here is if, and in if clause we use past tense, okay, simple past tense. So we generally use simple past tense, and in main clause, that is also called result clause, we use generally would or should plus base form of the verb. Okay, here base form of the verb is not written because that is understood generally after model auxiliary verbs, right? We generally use base form of the verb. So here the sentence is if I got a scholarship, I would complete my PhD. Here got, that refers to past tense, and would model auxiliary verb, and complete is the base form of the verb. So you need to remember the structure. In type 1 we talked about the structure which was there in present tense, and here in type 2 in if clause we used past tense, and in main clause we used would or should plus base form of the verb. Now one more form, one more example I've written here: if I were a bird I would fly. You can also write if I was a bird, right? But was or were both can be used, but here I've written one note here that were is more formal and used for purely imaginary statements. Now you cannot be a bird, right? But here you are imagining that if I were a bird, agar मैं एक चिड़िया होती, right? So if I were a bird I would fly. So here were is used instead of was. Why? Because to give it more formal touch and to make it more imaginary, right? So if I were a bird I would fly. Now the third type of conditional, which is very important, and often we use this kind of conditional sentences when we are talking about which has not happened in the past, right? So as it is written also on the screen, I'm reading it out. Talking about something that has not fulfilled in the past. In if clause we talk about such events and imagined consequences then, right? Then means that time what could be the result. in the main clause. It is purely imaginary condition. It is hypothetical condition. Now, why hypothetical condition? Because it actually did not happen in the past, right? And that is why there were no consequences. Now I'm explaining with the help of example. First of all, you understand the structure. In if clause, we use past perfect tense. Okay. And in main clause, we use should or would or could or might. Okay. These are model auxiliary. So after using model auxiliary verbs, plus have plus past participle verb means third form of verb, that is also called V3, right? So this is how it is used. Now example, if I had got a scholarship, I would have completed my PhD. Now you have not, the person means I have not completed my PhD, but I'm talking about past, that if I had got a scholarship, it actually was this, this particular situation has not been fulfilled. So I'm saying that if I had got a scholarship, I would have completed my PhD. Means here the person wants to say that I have not completed my PhD because I had not got a scholarship. So now you can understand that we are talking in type 3, we are talking about such situation which has not fulfilled in the past, right? And we are talking about the result of the unfulfilled past in the main clause. Students, I hope you understood about these three types, right? And you need to remember the structure in order to deal with the questions which are often asked to you in the examination. Now in the next video, I'll be talking about that how can we replace if. Now if can be replaced, I told you know that if clause. So in if clause, you can see, you remember that most of the time if was used. So if can be replaced also. Now it can be replaced by suppose or supposing, provided, unless, otherwise, but for. So these terms, how to replace if, we are going to discuss in the next video. Also in the next video, I'm going to discuss with you all some examples which were asked frequently in the last in the past years. So those examples will be discussed. I hope you have understood this video. Share among your friends if this video was helpful to you. One assignment will be attached to this, so go for the assignments too. Having any doubts, you can ask me via comment section. Till then, take care. Bye bye.